stay seated during the duration of tonight's speaker. Please help me welcome Jack. My name is Jack. I am an alcoholic. There's a lot of people I love in this room. That's pretty cool. I'll introduce myself, guess the way I was taught. My sobriety date is April 1st of 2014. I have a home group, Sunday morning men's stag. I sponsor and I get sponsored. I don't deprive the people who sponsor me of being of service, so I do my best to call them. This is a beautiful and wonderful fellowship that has saved my life, and I'd like to lead with that. Because there is no way a guy like me should be standing up here, be given a microphone, nice clothes to wear, and the opportunity to be in front of you fine folks. I was thinking today, which is part of my problem, I think a lot, but I was thinking today of what I was going to say and getting all nervous and anxious and all messed up. You know, for years in Alcoholics Anonymous, I had this go-to pitch, follow a chronological timeline of my childhood and all this stuff and how I came in and worked the steps and had a first step experience. I'd like to share with you about something that happened recently about the power of God as I understand him in my life. Recently we lost Sandy, and I'm talking to my sponsor on the phone, and he's okay. Huge loss, and he's okay. And I'm sitting there being like, I want that. I want to be okay no matter what. I'd really like that. And that's been my experience in Alcoholics Anonymous, whether I think that or not. I've been okay no matter what. Like, I'm here in front of you guys, and I know where I should be, and it's not here in front of you guys. I'm talking to my sponsor on the phone, and he's talking about this experience he had the next day after his beautiful, wonderful wife passed, and about birds, seeing birds in a tree. And I get off the phone, I go back to work, I go back out on the porch. It's starting to rain, so I'm pulling some stuff in, some of my boys' toys, and I see this hummingbird zoom by me and then go sit in a ponderosa pine and just like, what's up? Like, look back at me. Couple of things about that. Hummingbirds don't hang out in ponderosa pines. Second of all, there are no hummingbirds by our house. I've never seen one in my entire life. And I got to say, hey, what's up, Sandy? Cool. I don't know if you guys believe in all that stuff, but the experiences like that are the reason why I get to stay. Because if you didn't give me something in return for what I was chasing, I would not be here. I wouldn't do the steps. I wouldn't get a sponsor. I wouldn't get service commitments and be inconvenienced all the time at all times of day and night by sponsees calling, talking to me about their girlfriends. I wouldn't do that. I'm just going to move this real quick. Because of this program, I get to be here, and specifically because someone else worked this program. And when I say program, I mean the steps, the traditions, and concepts to the best of their ability, and was able to turn around and show me how to do it when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, and I had no idea how or if my life would ever change. All I knew is that I was done with that dude in the mirror. That was over. I did not want to be him anymore. So my first step took some time. My first step took me 27 years to take it in its full measure. I had some some first part of the first step experiences, right? I had some I'm powerless over alcohol experiences all over the country. I live in a lot of different states. Didn't put together that I am the problem. I thought, Los Angeles was the problem. I thought Orange County, California was the problem. I thought Bloomington, Indiana was the problem. I thought Maricopa County, Arizona was the problem. So, and Ashburnham, Massachusetts is in there. So I thought all those places were the problems, but of course I ran into the same stuff over and over again wherever I went. And so that process took me a long time to be like, hey, the problem is you, dude. And here's the scary part about the alcoholism that I have. And the alcoholism I have is described in the doctor's opinion. Read it. I'm not going to go into that or quote passages. But I definitely have a spiritual malady. I've had that all my life, right? The only thing about my experience that made my spiritual malady ever be okay was booze. And some outside issues that I'm not going to discuss at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. But that was the only thing I ever found that made that like chill, right? Second part is I realized I started to drink when I didn't want to. That was a scary process for a dude like me. I started to put substances in my body that affect me from the neck up that I did not want to anymore. That scared me a lot. Because I want to be careful about this word, normal people who were able to go out there and they were able to have a good time, enjoy themselves, get an Uber ride home, or actually this is before Uber and Lyft, so get like a taxi ride home or have someone pick them up and go home, wake up, go to work the next day, and do it all over again. I could not do that, and I was incapable of doing that. I've never had that experience. My entire life, my entire drinking career, I'd never had that experience. I had to shut down the bar. I had to shut down the house party. Those were requirements for me. So a guy like me, I am unable to stop drinking once I start. And then when I suffer significant amount of consequences, and I'll briefly touch on those, I was actually a decent student in school. Earned some athletic scholarships coming out of school. Had a beautiful, wonderful life ahead of me. The old man was preparing me to, get on board with him and make a bunch of money. And, my grandmother was going to pick the right girl for me and all this crap, all this stuff. And, none of that happened, right? None of that happened because I needed to drink more than I needed to go to school my senior year, or needed to go to basketball practice, or needed to go to family functions sober. The reality of who and what I am has nothing to do with what I put in my body. I needed that drink to feel okay about being extremely self-centered, extremely selfish, and extremely self-righteous in my case. If you were to pick my top 3 character defects, self-righteous is number 1. I love sitting here on this podium, and if I was left to my own devices, I would judge all of you to make myself feel better about myself. That's what I would do. Regardless of the amount of sobriety I have, that's what I would do. I think it's fun. Normal people don't think that's fun. I think it's fun. I like people watching sitting on the corner of Grand in Escondido, California, and having more beers than my friends can and judging people walking by because it's a high traffic area. That's a blast for me. I really enjoy making it all about me. So anywhere I go, I'm always relating how you guys see me, what I look like. I literally have transformed my body to look a certain way so I'd be accepted in certain social groups. put ink on my skin. I've put piercings in my skin. I've cut my hair a certain way. I've worn certain clothes in order to be accepted in all different parts of the country. So if I was in Ashburnham, Massachusetts, I had the closed-billed hat, Boston socks, there is no other team, right? I had the windbreaker, probably some white Nikes and some baggy jeans. You saw me in Bloomington, Indiana. I had the cutoff shirt, but it's a specific type of cutoff shirt. You have to cut it all the way down to the waist. You can't just cut the sleeves off. You got to let it all flap in the wind kind of deal when you're in a truck. And, you know, got to get the fish hooked right on that bill. That's Southern Indiana. You know, Arizona, go desert rat style. Whatever. It didn't matter. When I was in East LA, Chucks, chinos, flannel shirt, button at the top. So this is who and what I am. I have to constantly devote energy and my emotional capacity to change the way you think of me because I'm the most important in the room. Now I have alcoholism, and I got to either be the most important or the POS, one of the two. I can't find the middle. And that's my primary problem is like I cannot develop partnerships with other human beings that are meaningful past of fear of not looking good. And that's been my entire life. So take that dude, suffer some consequences, lose basketball scholarships, lose the opportunity to go to college, lose the opportunity to work, became a felon, got to do all this great, wonderful things to make you guys think of me a certain way. And I'm walking into Alcoholics Anonymous because it is the absolute last stop for me. And then I decided to drink, right? I didn't know my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous was a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I had to go get a court card signed. I thought it was like a therapy session. And I thought the secretary was actually like some like PhD in EMDR therapy or something like that in a group setting. So I went, the meeting was at Tropical Cafe in somewhere in LA off Sunset Boulevard in LA. So I go there, I think it's Silver Lake. So I go there, get my court card signed, leave, and I'm managing my life. I'm doing my own thing, trying to relate myself appropriately to you guys as I dictate. And an interesting thing happens. I ended up hating it. I ended up not liking sitting and judging people. All the favorite things I used to do, I started to despise, and I started to get more and more miserable. I'm not going to go necessarily and tell you all the consequences, but a big part of my story is that I lost my mother to some disease. I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure if she would have qualified for this fellowship, but she ended up taking her own life because of some sort of spiritual malady. I think that's as much as my family knows about it. And that was a great excuse to drink and drug how I wanted to for a very, very long time. It's also a great excuse today to behave how I want to with my family. Alcoholism. Today. So I think it's important to share that with you guys because without seeing that today, I wouldn't have gotten to Alcoholics Anonymous. Without that behavior, without thinking I knew how to manage people, places, things, relationships, I wouldn't have ever walked in. So let's get sober, right? I walk into Alcoholics Anonymous and it was a house meeting. And there's this guy sitting there not sitting there. He answers the door to his own house and he opens the door and his name is Les, right? And first thought comes to mind, he shakes my hand. Hey, I'm Les. We've heard about you. Keep your hands in your pockets. Why? He's like, you're not allowed in my house with your hands outside of your pockets. I said, okay. He's like, you're also secretarying the meeting. And in my mind, I'm like, who is this Les dude? What a name, like a stupid name for a guy. Les, that's ridiculous. And if Les in Prescott is here, I apologize. It's a different Les. But I'm just telling on myself, right? I'm just telling you how I thought about things. And what a dumb name for a dude. This guy is an alcoholic. He lives in Mission Viejo, California, in a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house all alone. You know, he's some big wig at some air conditioning company. There's no way. He's not like me. He doesn't drink like me. He doesn't act like me. He gives me the secretary thing, this thing, gives the binder, gives it to me, and I sit down. That's my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous that I voluntarily showed up to. And I don't remember what I said. I don't remember what I shared. All I remember is that they called me Blueberry because of a hat that I had, and I resented them. So when they told me that, hey, you can keep coming to this house, you can keep showing up, that's cool, but like we do stuff here. We do things. I was like, what, you just don't sit around talking about, you know, your feelings or like how you messed up your life? No, we do stuff. And I go back to Les's and I just keep coming over there, mainly because I heard other men specifically share that they were just like me and I couldn't keep my unicorn card. I couldn't keep that. There were like 3 dudes who lost their mother to suicide in that meeting. There were 2 other guys who had blown their opportunities at playing professional ball. There was 3 guys who had, an experience like I did with my father. I had, like, they were taking away all my excuses, and I pretty much kept going to that meeting because I was holding on, like, there was one more excuse that I had to be different and not have to do this program, so I keep showing up to this meeting just to find out if someone, if I could keep one of those. What ended up happening is I got a sponsor, and we started working the steps, right? He sat me down, opened the book, and we start going through the steps. And I'm like, okay, I'm powerless over alcohol. My life is unmanageable, sure. He presented the second step to me. And I just went through them so I could go back to that meeting at Les's house and say that I had done these. Stop asking me about the steps. When you say, hey, we do stuff here, I did them. Go away. Right? Like, stop it. And so I did that. And then I had to start living life on life's terms. And part of living life on life's terms for me was I had to suffer the consequences of my past behaviors. So I caught a court case, and I now got to go and do the time 6 months sober. I got to walk in to a detention center and turn myself in, and I got to go serve 6 months of jail time, but it was counted as prison time. I don't know how they did that. I was on Interstate Compact. I caught the charge in Maricopa, and I went and served in Seal Beach, and then I got released on work furlough. So I had this little ankle piece of jewelry, and I'm very manipulative. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, but I basically set it up so I'd spend the least amount of time in jail. So I used you guys as a great excuse because the meetings were approved to be outside of my jail cell on work furlough. So I go to a meeting at 6:15 in the morning at Los Amigos off, I think it's Wilshire Boulevard in East Los Angeles, or Montebello technically. And I'd go to that meeting, I'd go to work, which was down the street. I would get off of work, and the LA Fitness backed up right against the Los Amigos meeting hall. So I'd go to the gym, and they could only target within 50 feet, so I'd have to stay along the wall to work out when I was at LA Fitness, because I wasn't supposed to be there. So they thought there was this 2.5-hour meeting right next to, I think the longest meeting there was like an hour and 15 minutes. So I would go there after work, go to the gym, go to a meeting, and then leave. And that kept me, for some reason, abstinent. It kept me out of places that I would rather go. early in sobriety, things that I would rather do. And today I can thank God that I was walking around, with 6 months to a year sober with an ankle bracelet. I'm very grateful for that. I'm also grateful for the fact that I had to wake up at 4 a.m. to get from Seal Beach into Montebello every morning. I never used to do that. I used to want to sleep the entire day away. If I wasn't loaded, I couldn't be with you guys. I couldn't be out in the world. I couldn't be outside of my room. I had to be loaded to interact with life. And so I was either sleeping, and when I'd wake up, I wish I hadn't, and go back to sleep. So now I'm a morning dude, and my wife hates me, I'm the guy with the coffee at 5 a.m., super chipper, ready to rock and roll, tackle the day. I'm shooting out daily reflections to my sponsees, like when they have their phones clearly marked on do not disturb, and I'm like, screw it, you're getting it. And if you've been a real knucklehead like I used to be, I'll even double click the reminder and it'll pop up in your phone while you're sleeping at 5 a.m. These are some things I genuinely get to be grateful for today. The steps were a checklist to me, and I suffered for it. And the way I suffered for it was I was 2 years abstinent from drugs and alcohol. I'd done the steps once with a sponsor so I could get that out of the way. And then I was met with a decision. How I was met with a decision is I was so selfish and self-centered that I was decided that I would drive my truck into a telephone pole to end my life in Laverne, California, so people would feel bad for me. Fully intent on doing it, thinking about the funeral service. And I was going 65 and a 35, and I got a text message on my phone while driving, looked at my phone while I was driving, and somehow, because of, body mechanics or something, I don't know. I call it God today. I looked at my phone, and my hand goes like this, and I go away with probably, 10 yards left to go on that telephone pole, and it was my sponsor who relapsed after 14 years. The only thing I knew about you people was that you guys helped one another. It was the only thing I knew about you guys. And part of the ways you guys helped one another is you took this blue book and you read it to one another. And then some of you tried to do that and practice those principles that are in that book. Do the 12 steps on a daily basis. I ended up driving down to San Diego, California. That's where my first sponsor was. And I go to the meeting he's at, and he is shaking and baking in a meeting on a Sunday morning. And I go into that meeting, I sit down, I give him a hug. He's all messed up, and I don't think I heard anything profound at that meeting other than I saw a guy. I saw a dude. Big dude, bald head, tattoos, Tommy Bahama shirt, Birkenstocks, and cargo shorts. Didn't make sense, especially with the type of tattoos that he was wearing. And it was just like, why is this guy okay? Why is this dude okay? There was some controversy in that meeting that I found out later about. Like, people were kind of going back and forth on some tradition stuff and cross-talking and cross-sharing, and this guy was just okay in the meeting. I get outside, I go up to this dude, hey, will you sponsor me? He's like, are you Steve's buddy? I was like, yeah, he just asked me to sponsor him. Okay, well, will you sponsor me? Like, I'm in trouble, man. I'm in big trouble. Like, I just tried to end my life. He's like, how much time do you have? 2 years? He's like, we'll see, buddy. Read the first 164 pages of the big book and call me. That's what he told me. And he kind of chuckled while he did it, which pissed me off. That pissed me off, because like I'm a couple hours away from a suicide attempt. And when I share this with you, like, the suicide attempt was a result of me. And what I mean by that is everything that I had on the day I got out of jail on April 24th, 2015, I was like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get a place to live. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get into a relationship with a woman I love and start a new life. This, that, and the other. I had all those things the day I was driving my truck into a telephone pole. Every single one of those things. For the first time in probably a decade, my bank account wasn't negative. I had a girlfriend at the time who loved me. I don't know if I cared about her at all, other than the fact that I had a girlfriend. And I had a job. I started my own service technician business, and at one of the biggest metro plants in Los Angeles that services 100 million gallons a day, I was doing their work for their aeration basins on contract. Like, I had all that, and I'm ending my life. So I do what this guy says, right? I'm like, how dare you laugh at me? Out of resentment, I read the first 164 pages of the big book. I call him. I read it. Now you have to meet with me and solve all my problems. It was the first time I ever heard about practicing the first 3 steps on a daily basis was from this guy. And he asked me, hey, so you've done the steps, right? I was like, yeah, I did the steps. I did the steps when I first got sober. Like, I'm good. Like, what do we need to do? Do I need to do a 10-step here? He's like, no, man, you need to take a first step. I didn't know what he understood. So when I first took the first step, took it, not did the homework assignment, not wrote down on a sheet of paper all the ways my life was unmanageable, but took it internally, said, oh my God, I can't manage my life. When I choose something I want to do, it ends up in hell. When I get the girl I want, she ends up shattered, and so do I. When I get the job I want, they hate me, I hate them. When I manage my life sober, I want to kill myself. The difference between that and me drinking and drugging might be just a clock. I didn't realize that. Yes. Tell me about the second step. So I was like, okay, my entire life is clearly like I can't. It doesn't matter what I do. Like, if I'm making the decision, I'm screwed. He asked me about the second step. And what I found out about the second step wasn't necessarily who my God is today. What I found out is that I'm mentally ill. That's what I found out about the second step. It tells me to find a power greater than myself to restore me to sanity. That means I'm not sane. And it's also telling me that I'm sober when I'm reading this. In working with others, it tells us we got to get to detox. Like, we have to be physically removed from drugs and alcohol. I got physically removed from drugs and alcohol to be able to take these steps. Otherwise, I don't have a shot. So when I started practicing the second step every day of my life, I don't know what I was praying to or what I was asking. I have no clue. All I did was say, I'm insane, help. I'm nuts. I need help. That was my second step. I've heard people have profound experiences with that. That's my second step. Sorry to disappoint y'all. Then he presents to me the third step. And this one I really didn't like because it outright says God. On a resentment, I came in Alcoholics Anonymous as a card-carrying atheist. There's a membership due. It is an organization you can't belong to. And I was very upset with any concept of God. You took away my mother, right? Which is the primary excuse I used to drink and step all over you. He said, make a decision to do the rest of the steps, dude. You don't need to get some God right now. Just make a decision that this thing is greater than you and it'll work. Okay. I want to be clear with you guys. Like, the first 3 steps, I don't do them perfectly. I run the show often. You can ask the people in my life. They'll report accurately. But the only thing I've done right my entire sobriety is the first step. And most of the time I suit up and show up. Most of the time I suit up and show up. And every day, at some point from the time I wake up and I've taken a first step after a miserable day at 11 o'clock at night, I can't. I'm done managing. I'm done selecting and choosing what I'm going to do and how it's going to go today. And I get to be restored to sanity. Now the gate's open. And then comes the rest of the steps. So now comes the work, right? Like this is the sucky part for me. Because another defective character I have is I'm lazy and I'm a procrastinator. I think I have all the natural talent and the skill and the charisma to be able to navigate through life like a slippery fish, and you guys will all think I'm doing the work, but I've never done the work. I like that. I liked that about me when I got here. I liked the A-. That was my favorite grade, was an A-. Because I got away with it. I did the minimum amount of work for the maximum amount of looking good. And that's how I carried myself through Alcoholics Anonymous for a while. I had a spiritual experience taking the third step with that man. It was wonderful. What happened was I had another day of Jack managing his own life, and I got on my hands and knees and said, God, take it all away. I don't want it anymore. I was in tears, and the next morning I woke up, and a thought came to my head is like, you don't have to do that today. That was the first time that ever came into my brain. Like, you don't have to make sure everything goes according to Jack's plan today. First time ever. I was 27 years old. That was pretty cool for a dude like me. And I sobbed. Like, I broke down crying. And I come from a place you're not supposed to cry, you're supposed to fight. It broke me. And I had to work. Man, after I had that experience, my sponsor could not get rid of me. He actually had to tell other people to tell me, like, hey, don't you think you're going over to Bruce's too much? Like, you can call him. He couldn't get rid of me. I was giving him a 10-step all day, every day. He wasn't getting out of it. And at inconvenient times for him, right? He was a cyclist. He liked to ride his bike like 200 miles. And I would call him right in the middle of a ride, and he'd have to stop at a stoplight and like pick up the phone. But he wanted to stay sober. I didn't get that. He wanted to stay sober, so he stopped. He pulled off, ruined his cycle time for that day to answer my phone call. He taught me a lot. Fast forward to moving to Prescott, Arizona. I'm 7 years sober at this time. I got to be part of a wonderful place that is it's a 10-day non-medical recovery home for men, and all volunteers. No one gets paid. There's 200 some odd dudes who are all sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. They work rotating shifts 365 days a year, and they bring a big book. And I had to be part of that in a bunch of different capacities. So I'm known in a community. I have sponsees. I've been sponsored by this guy for half a decade. I have a wife who's a sober gal who chose me. I finally stopped swiping right, you know? Like, I finally took a first step on relationships, and then she comes along. She was my roommate. We were roommates at the time. We were friends. My sponsor, she was living in a place that was not conducive to sobriety, not voluntarily, and she went to my sponsor and said, I don't know what to do. help me. And he's like, oh, yeah, Colin and Jack have an extra room at their house. Why don't you move in there? A couple months later, she's sitting on my couch. Hey, I want to be with you. Call your sponsor and get your shit together and date me. Now married, got 2 kids. It's great. I move here and I'm scared and I don't want to get a new sponsor and I don't want a new fellowship and I don't want anything different than what I've been experiencing because in my mind, I think that's keeping me alive. I don't want to change. I don't want to know you. I don't want to shake your hand. I don't want to go to new meetings because A, you're doing it wrong, and B, you're not my people. And I walk into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I see these guys stacking chairs, and I hear one guy share from the print exactly what I needed to hear about the inability for me to have true, harmonious, and brotherly relationships with my fellows. And I wasn't doing that. In fact, I was stiff-arming the living daylights out of that. And then the next dude shared, and I see these guys stacking chairs, like putting chairs out at the beginning of the meeting, and I'm just sitting there feeling lonely and sorry for myself because my sponsor's not here, and these people aren't my people, and I don't know anyone, and I'm not the dude, right? And another guy says, we don't care what you say, we care what you do. We watch what you do. And I was like, I gotta do something. Now I got this curmudgeon-y old dude looking to see what I do, so I gotta move my, I gotta do something. So I stuck out my hand. Everyone thought I was a newcomer. And I was like, I knew this would happen. This is ridiculous. Oh, you're new? How many days do you have? I go to the Friday night speaker, right? And there's a guy sharing, he's a 10-minute speaker. And he has like 2 years. And I'm really good friends with him now, so I can say that. But he has 2 years of sobriety. And I'm like, dude, you need to dive into the steps, bro. You're messed up. Like, what's wrong with it? How could this meeting have this dude be this? You know? Like, I'm just judging. Stick out my hand. I'm Jack. I'm new in town. Oh, how many days do you have? I have 7 years. Thank you very much. I should be the Friday night speaker. I should have the 40-minute. You guys need to know what I got. I got the solution for you guys. I end up getting a sponsor who's sitting front row right here, and he says he needs my 4-step, so I give him my 4-step. He knows who and what I really am, and now he's telling the truth about me. And the minute that happened, I was a part of you guys, whether you wanted me or not. I became a part of this fellowship in Prescott, Arizona. I had no choice. You guys came after me, man. And thank God. Because 7 years of sobriety, I know how to isolate. I know how to distance myself from you guys. And I will be another statistic. That's how I drank. I had an early sponsor tell me early on, Jack, you ain't making it back, buddy. Not the way you run it. You think you're going to be able to go out and do the great experiment that's in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous? Nuh-uh. Someone's going to shoot you, bud. I guess that's the way I did it. So I'm a part of this wonderful, beautiful fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And now I got to get to work. Right? You guys saved me from myself again in a different city, in a different town. I got to give back. Now it's my turn to stack chairs. Now it's my turn to shake hands. Now it's my turn to greet. Now it's my turn to go pin down a newcomer who doesn't want to be talked to. Now it's my turn to hug people who look like they've been out in the cold for a long time. That's me. Now it's my turn to sponsor dudes who other guys won't sponsor because they might qualify for different fellowships. It's my turn. And I get to stay because I do that. And that's why I'm here. I'm here because you guys showed me how to do that and showed me that it worked. I just came here for an apartment and a car and some money, a job, and a pretty girl. That's why I came here. I hated who I was, but I figured that's what would fix me. What I got was wildly different. What I got was, I don't avoid the mirror. I mean, I look good tonight, right? So, but you know that, I don't know if you had those moments where you're in the bathroom and you look at yourself in the mirror. And some days it's like, man, most days I have, you're all right, Bill. You okay? I got to reclassify my relationship with a higher power, which keeps me sober today. I found out that that's what this is about. I found out that this whole program is so I am dependent on that higher power. Because sometimes your sponsor isn't available. Sometimes dudes in the room act a fool, me included. Sometimes we function on personalities and not principles. And if that person is my higher power, that group is my higher power, I got a problem. So what do the steps look like for me on a daily basis? Here's a look in the life of Jack's program. I wake up in the morning. I'm not that spiritual. I go straight to the coffee. Okay? I don't pray right away. I get the coffee. I go into the bathroom. I do my daily devotional, and I read my daily devotional, if that makes sense to anybody. And then I say a prayer. God, please help me stay sober today. And please help me help someone else to do the same. Then, I'm not a 10-step at night guy. Please don't come up and talk to me about how the big book says, nightly review. I don't do that. I do it in the morning. I tend to have a better, clearer mind, but I do my 10-step from the day before in the morning. I got 2 little kids under the age of 2.5. At the end of the day, I am out. Do not call me after 9 p.m. I will call you back, but you won't get me, and I sleep heavy. So I do that. I write my 10-step from the night before. If there's anything repeating on that, I call my sponsor. If something comes up again on it, I call my sponsor. That means I have a resentment of brewing. So I do that. I read a couple of different big books, and I have currently, I don't know if I'm being rewarded or punished, but I read the 12 and 12. Page 116 out of the 12 and 12 every day. It's been a suggestion that I read that. It talks about emotional stability in relationship with God. I wonder why I need that. And then I meditate. I get in the shower, get on my knees, and I just chill. I get up, I go to work, pat my kids on the head, give my wife a kiss, and I go to work, and I try to practice the principles with a bunch of people in the insurance business, and, good luck with that. I do my best. And about lunchtime, I try to remind myself to talk to God. And I'm getting calls from sponsees all day long. I stop what I'm doing. Unless it's a threat or physical harm or someone's going to lose money, a sponsee calls me, I stop what I am doing. So if you are sponsored by me, this might be new information, but it's because there's threat, harm, or someone's going to lose money because of me if I don't answer. Get over it. That's my day. That's what I go to sleep. I say, thank you, God, for another day. That is my 1, 2, 3. I don't do that. I don't tap. I don't surrender. I don't pray. I don't meditate. I don't do my inventory. I don't be here. That's it. I go to meetings, and my favorite thing to do is stack chairs. I don't like the treasurer, I don't like the secretary. Currently, I'm the literature commitment, I deal with it. My favorite commitment on the face of the earth is to stack chairs. I don't know why. That's what I do. That's my program. I meet people with coffee, lunch. I also sponsor and participate in other programs because I will put anything. I will obsess over anything. What's the next thing you've got? Just want to let the newcomers know. I love you and I'm glad you're here. You got the exact same shot that I do. All you have to do is make a decision. Thanks for letting me share.